Yeah, I'll react to that, sure.
Sailor?
It's history bomb, sir. The British Empire in one take.
Okay, sorry. I'm funny.
Never take the British Empire.
Okay, original link to the video. Why are there subtitles? Original link to the video, top of the description, right below that link to the Discord. History of the British Empire. In one take. I've seen this channel. I think I'm subbed. Yeesh, they're good. A few of them I've seen are pretty good. And I like the whole one take thing. My name is Connor. I like to learn about history. Especially British history, I love. British Empire, big fan. One of the better empires. I think Rome beats you out. And America's pretty good. Talking nonsense. Did I say everything? Original link to the video, Discord below that. If you like Minecraft, we also started a Minecraft I start on server on Discord. If you're interested in that, let's do it. My name is Connor. Did I say that?
Start your membership today at historybombs.com for full access to our video lessons and teaching materials.
Let's do it.
Captain, what do you see, sailor?
Hold on, sorry, I gotta turn down the volume a bit.
It's history bomb, sir. The British Empire in one take.
They'll never take the British Empire.
I think he's misunderstood the concept.
As the sails are being unfurled on this complex journey all around the world, one note, this video is just 8 minutes.
Yeah, that's not long. The form has limits. Centuries of change, resistance and violence, all involving this rainy little island, starting in England. For the first verse, it's 1581 Q Elizabeth I.
I knight thee, Sir Francis Drake. Your ship sailed round the world for my sake, proclaiming the glory of England's name and embarrassing our rivals, Portugal and Spain.
I honour your majesty, let the legend be told. I stole more Spanish gold than our ship could hold. On the Golden Hind, I went to find gaps to fill in our ever-growing global map.
Exploring the so-called New World by ship was big business at the time. Great riches could be traded or stolen from indigenous people and European rivals. But that's not the whole story about Drake. Alongside Sir John Hawkins, he was there at the very start of one of the British Empire's worst atrocities, the enslavement of millions of African people.
In the powerful kingdoms of Africa, we have seen Portuguese slave traffickers, so there's money to be made. If we could go on a raid, we could start our own Atlantic slave trade.
England must get in on it too. Drake and Hawkins, you know what to do. Take enslaved people over the seas and sell them to Spanish colonies.
British slave trading develops rapidly with active support from monarchs, merchants, the military and the public. More on this to come.
At the same time, British colonists built permanent settlements in a place they called America. Some wanted land and wealth, others sought refuge from religious persecution, but wherever they went, they of course met people who were already living there.
Indigenous princess dressed to impress, proud daughter of the power town, East Coast power clan. British built Jamestown close to me. I was kidnapped but saw an opportunity. Married a colonist to stop the war between our peoples. Went to London, met the king, saw St. Paul's steeple. Leader and a diplomat. What they never taught you that I broke a peace among us. My name, Pocahontas.
In 1616, Pocahontas was an honoured guest in England, but sadly the peace she achieved didn't hold. Colonists killed millions of indigenous people in wars, land grabs and pandemics like smallpox.
Meanwhile, British triangular trade routes took enslaved people from Africa over the horrific Middle Passage to work on Caribbean plantations, but there was always resistance.
Resistance that led to victory. Sweeter than sugar in a British cup of tea. Nanny of the Maroons. I led a liberation, a community thrive when we escaped the plantation. A fighter, an OBR magic maker. I led Maroons to the hills of Jamaica and attacked his beat. The British don't to sign a peace treaty with Nanny Toe.
The 16 and 1700s saw resistance to Britain's growing empire. During the 7 Years' War, the Bengali leader Siraj Udollah fought to keep independence against the expanding British East India Company, but was defeated by Robert Clive at the Battle of Plassey.
And by now there were 13 British colonies in America who didn't get on with their rulers in London.
Stop! That's our property. In 1776, 1873, the Americans are throwing British tea into the sea.
Damn right.
It's no longer property. This is a lot of fun.
George?
Here comes the General. George Washington.
George, my boy.
Cornwallis, let me give you the recap. Your response to Boston is a storm in a teacup. It's simple. Taxes that the British levy on American colonies are getting too heavy, and we have no say in your parliament.
And this is how you want to make your argument? Washington, you once fought for the Brits in the 7 Years' War, but I see that it's too late to change.
Sorry for pausing. Remember, like, George Washington was a British person, and
You when fought for the Brits in the 7 Years' War, but
Obviously.
I see that it's too late to change you anymore. Get ready for a revolutionary war.
Which we will win against the British Crown. You surrendered to the revolutionaries at Yorktown.
We've lost America. The empire is diminished. Surely my colonial career is finished. No, wait, I'm fine. Off to fight another war in southern India at Mysore.
Cornwallis, this invasion is deeply insulting. You've met your match in Tipu Sultan. Our strong and diverse society will resist the onslaught of the EIC. My innovative rocketry will guarantee us victory.
We'll see. They end up a colony. Well, that's that. Now I'm fed up of roaming. Time
Rolled.
to head back to my home in
Ireland is not your home.
leader of the Irish rebels, Wolfe Tone.
That's right, Cornwallis. Don't look so surprised. Ireland's the first place the English colonized, suppressed our culture and brought endless slaughter. Time to send the invaders back over the water.
The British responded with deadly force to uprisings like the Irish Rebellion in 1798. Britain could manufacture weapons at huge scale and speed during the Industrial Revolution, partly due to the wealth that was pouring into the country via the triangular slave trade.
But in the United Kingdom itself, attitudes to the slave trade were beginning to change.
Elado Equiano is the name. I rose to fame with the book of my enslavement and how I came to make a payment for my freedom. I'm a self-made man. I made England home and then had bigger plans. Abolition of the brutal slave trade. With the writings and the speeches I made, hearts were swayed. Not bad for a boy kidnapped from Nigeria with eloquence and acumen, highly superior.
While the British public argued over the morality of slavery, the government looked for new territory to make up for the loss of the American colonies.
A British
I'm starting to see a trend here in the video, and I'll save. I have thoughts on this. So I'll wait for the end.
The government looked for new territory to make up for the loss of the American colonies.
A British naval officer called James
Australia.
Cook had mapped a vast continent on the other side of the world. But like America 200 years before, there were already people there.
I'm Benelong. I met British sailors who said my land was called Australia, which is not our name. No, we've been here, caring for country for tens of thousands of years. They kidnapped me so I could do translations. I went to England and mediated for our nation. But when I came home, I left the colonists behind. Their diseases and their violence troubled my mind.
Hundreds of thousands of British convicts and civilians went to Australia, devastating indigenous people through persecution and kidnapping, justified as a mission to civilize and spread Christianity.
I have one problem so far with the video, and I will explain it at the end.
The government was finally persuaded to abolish slavery in 1833, but compensated former slave owners with huge sums of money. This historic injection of capital paved the way for even more expansion.
Feel the euphoria for the reign of Victoria. Check out my great exhibition. The Britannia Gloria ruled a quarter of the globe, no empire finer. Got rich from the Opium Wars against China, forced most of Asia to buy our drugs. And then we crushed the mutinous thugs in India. No more East India Company. I'm Empress now. It's our national destiny.
Let's scramble for Africa, a continent of loads of land and diamonds. For me, Cecil Rhodes, the empire needs metals, ivory, rubber. With our European rivals, we've agreed among each other over who gets where, which resources and jewels, because we believe whites have a right to rule.
But your plan to colonize had a surprise in store. You were soon embroiled in the Boer War, a white man's conflict on African soil with British concentration camps, murder for the spoils. I was in South Africa with Indian workers. We organized a volunteer ambulance service, which the warring British found pretty handy. Recognize me, I'm MK Gandhi.
Gandhi.
Gandhi's time in South Africa was crucial in forming his methods for non-violent resistance. He later returned to India to lead the struggle for independence.
The pseudo-scientific racism of Cecil
Please wait for the end. I have a ton to say about this, but I'm going to let it finish.
Returned to India to lead the struggle for independence.
The pseudo-scientific racism of Cecil Rhodes was common among white elites at the time. The Boer War had a terrible death toll, but an even bloodier conflict arose between European rivals in World War I.
We answer the call from all over the empire to stand together under enemy fire for a promise of freedom, safety, respect, or believing the empire was ours to protect.
From India, Australia, Canada, West Indies, millions signed up hoping that in these sacrifices our common humanity can remake the world after war's insanity.
Millions of people across the empire made vital contributions to both world wars, but Britain was now weakened, in huge debt, and needed help.
So many people took up Britain's invitation to live and work here with the Windrush generation.
Still, many other citizens resisted being part of British-led conflicts. Movements for independence grew across the world, from the Easter Rising in Ireland to the Mau Mau Rebellion in Kenya.
The empire's retreat involved massacres and torture by British soldiers and provoked civil wars that continue to shape our world. No one saw this more directly than Gandhi.
British wars and trade were built on maps, but when the empire began to collapse, the colonial lines they drew still remained, dividing people and causing deep pain. The India-Pakistan partition caused 1 million deaths and stoked nationalism, which inspired my assassin. It's hard to find humanity after centuries.
Gandhi was assassinated? I should know that.
Of imperial brutality. The scars are deep, but many are covered. Let us witness how people survived and suffered. Instead of a myth of pomp and glory, let us look for and listen to the real story.
Oh, is it over then?
I have a ton to say, okay? The last sentence right here, I have a problem with.
Inspired my assassin. It's hard to find humanity after centuries of imperial brutality. The scars are deep, but many are covered. Let us witness how people survived and suffered.
Right here is my issue.
Instead of a myth of pomp and glory, let us look for and listen to the real story.
And then you have the British guy like, oh, okay, I have a big problem with this video. So I get the point that they're trying to make, but sorry, my video messed up there. But I get the point that they're trying to make is that, and there's it's a good thing to an extent of showing the parts of history that were pushed under the rug because they were deemed as not important or done by non-important people, not important people in the British eyes. You know, America does the same thing. Every country does. But I think that you are using fire to fight fire, which is not a good idea here, I believe. I don't think it, like, I think it's good. You know, there's a lot of stuff that wasn't reported, especially people in colonies, and that history needs to be told. It's history. But you didn't say that. You used the history of the British Empire in one take. It seemed like the history of the British Empire's bad things they did in one take. And I feel like this is a trend happening nowadays where we have a lot of history that it doesn't focus on the more a lot of atrocities as much as it should. Fair. But you shouldn't try and fix that by saying, well, the history of the empire isn't of glory, it's of atrocities. Well, now you're doing the same thing that you deem to hate, which is a one-sided. I don't think you should go, or you're trying to correct something in history, trying to focus on everything rather than just the glory parts. I get that. That's important. But you're doing it by using the same logic. You're like, so now instead of getting just the good stuff, now we're getting just the bad stuff. We can't go back and forth. Why don't we just say, all right, yeah, there was a lot of glory and amazing. The British Empire was an amazing empire in so many aspects, and there was a lot of glory. I didn't see any of that in here. It was all just bashing the British Empire. And yeah, the last one, and like right here, I get it.
Between European rivals in World War I.
Another example, right here, I get it. There isn't a lot of attention given to African, Indian, you know, other people of different races in Britain or around the world in the colonies that fought and have glorious stories and were extremely brave and a giant part to World War I and World War II. But you're overcompensating. So you're saying because it was always white people, well, now let's just do non-white people. Why don't you give me a a serious, you're a history channel. You're a history channel. When I want to learn about history, I want to learn about history. I don't care about morality. I don't care about good guys and bad guys. I do not care. That doesn't mean I don't care about morality in everyday life. Of course I do. But I want to learn history. And I expect from a channel like this, that's what's going to happen. I didn't just learn history. I learned, again, I would be completely fine if this was like the, you know, the atrocities that you don't hear in the British Empire in one take. But it's the history of the British Empire in one take. And so this is trash history, in my opinion. You are doing the same thing that you hate that white historians did in the past. Why don't you not overcompensate? You compensate correctly. We start on a clean slate and show everyone and show the good things that the British Empire did with exploration and all that stuff. I mean, yeah, I love the channel, but man, get this crap out of history. That's gonna be not this crap out of history. Get the crap of showing only history in a good light or only in a bad light. This is happening way too much these days. I don't care how you feel emotionally about a historical thing. I don't care. I do not care. All I want to do is learn. And you are hurting me by showing me videos like this. That's what I have to say. Love you guys. Hope you're doing well in the comments. See you guys next time, all right? If you're not doing well, chin up, all right? Love y'all. Trust me. You'll be good soon. Don't worry. See ya. I love theirs, but I didn't like this one. It was kind of hard to watch.